Draugrs. Even if you haven't studied Norse mythology, you have probably heard this name before. Perhaps by slashing or fireballing your way through Skyrim's catacombs, plowing your way through them as Kratos, or even by reading the Draugr-inspired barrow wights from J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Draugrs have inspired many works throughout the centuries. So, what really are Draugrs? Draugr. Risen corpses of sailors who died at sea. Draugr reek of the rot and decay of the briny deep. Their eyes glow with ghastly green light, and rotting seaweed, barnacles, and dead sea creatures cling to their bodies. Draugr can't speak, but expresses their malicious emotions with gurgles, as though they were eternally drowning with lungs full of water. They desire little more than to attack living creatures, especially those who sailed the sea. Even when they go upon land, Draugrs often drag the corpses of those they strike down back to the water, populating the depths with even more dead. Draugr rise in the haunted places of the sea, where restless spirits, swells of negative energy, or supernatural storms deliver death. A corpse might rest at the bottom of the sea for some time before awakening as a Draugr. Collecting detritus in organisms, a corpse becomes increasingly disgusting before it finally rises. Proximity to intelligent life can expedite this process, and an underwater explorer who happens upon a shipwreck might cause a body to snap to unlife as a Draugr suddenly. The creatures don't take intrusions lightly, especially upon their place of death. Though steeped in evil, Draugr are susceptible to reminders of their lives as mariners. In particular, a well-performed sea shanty, or call and response work song, might cause a Draugr to become lost in reverie for a moment. The creatures have been witnessed moaning along, unable to sing the words but providing haunting accompaniment. The lull rarely lasts long though, as the beauty of the song quickly becomes a reminder of the tragedy that befell the Draugr, reaffirming their desire for blood and death. More powerful Draugr with burning red eyes are called Draugr captains. They're third-level creatures with elite adjustments on page 6 that can cast obscuring mist as an innate divine spell 3 times per day. One more piece of information over here. Draugr ships. When an entire ship's crew dies in one calamity, they might rise simultaneously, bound together in death. Tirelessly plaguing the seas, these Draugr crews slowly corrupt their vessels. The cursed ships often exhibit unsettling phenomena, such as being able to sail against the wind or leaving schools of dead fish in their wake. Sea shanties tell of Draugr raiders approaching during the night, wreathed in fog pierced only by the green glow emanating from their eyes. When we think of a Draugr, what do we imagine? Taking a look at the illustration in the book, we see a skeleton in various states of decay, wearing armor of a soldier. The specific armor being worn is a bit of a mix-up, and is definitely a fantasy-based concoction. The Draugr wields a great axe and is altogether draped in seaweed, making it an undead drowned soldier. Taking a look at the monster sheet, I skipped the specific stats in favor of traits and abilities that can make a callback to history, and give us an understanding of what this creature can do. I will note, however, that it has a challenge rating, or danger level, of 2 to 3. It is an undead with an alignment or temperament of chaotic evil. Just underneath the stats, we read that it has negative healing, meaning that it is harmed by positive damage and healed by negative effects. It is immune to death effects, disease, paralyzed, poison, and unconscious. Weakness to positive damage, adding +5 damage. It is also resistant to fire, and it can also swim. Taking a look at the traits, the Sea's Revenge. Curse, Divine, Necromancy. A creature that slays a Draugr is subjected to a Mariner's Curse spell, with a save DC of 17. The curse ends if the Draugr is buried in a calm sea, or after 1 week passes. Taking a look at the actions, Melee, Great Axe, +10, Sweep, Slashing damage plus Grotesque Gift, which we'll get to in a second. Next one, melee, fist, plus 10, agile. Slashing damage, plus grotesque gift. Grotesque gift, olfactory. A Draugr's attacks spatter their targets with rancid flesh and rotting seaweed. A creature damaged by a Draugr's strike must succeed at a DC 15 Fortitude save or become sickened. Sickened 2 on a critical failure. Swipe. The Draugr makes a melee strike and compares the attack roll result to the AC of up to 2 foes, each of whom must be within its melee reach and adjacent to each other. Roll damage only once and apply it to each creature hit. A swipe counts as 2 attacks for the Draugr's multiple attack penalty. Alright, that is the Draugr in a nutshell. The question is, how close is it to the original? It's time to take a dive into history to see how much of this creature is pulled from history. 3 key questions to keep in mind as we explore the history of the Draugr. Has the depiction of the Draugr changed at all? Is the core idea captured or reimagined? How can we integrate history to bring the Draugr to life? Researching the Draugr has been one of the most difficult yet. There are 4 different words in the Old Norse that correspond to the undead. Draugar, AR for plural, revenant undead man or ghost. Athdraganga, meaning again walker. Haubui, meaning barrow or mound dweller. Feverbither, meaning appearance or vision. What makes this study difficult is that they are used interchangeably in some cases, especially in the English translations. The time period in which literary works were written also plays a role. The Draugrs found in the Poetic Edda are different in appearance and behavior than those written in later sagas, or even in the Prose Edda. Lastly, each region within Scandinavia and the Nordic territories have sagas that may or may not change the idea of a Draugr. I tried my best to get them all straightened out, but I apologize if I have confused any information. Draugar and Athdraganga appear to be essentially the same. Haubui seems to be a Draugr that is specifically abiding in its burial mound, or how, and does not leave. These would be your typical Skyrim Draugr, found in the tomb or catacomb dungeon areas. Feverbither seem to be altogether different and appear in dreams in an incorporeal state, while all the others are in a physical state. In Baldur's Drama, Baldur's Dreams, found in the Poetic Edda, the god Baldur is suffering from nightmares. His father, Odin, travels to the land of the dead and uses magic to bring back Osiris from the dead. Odin asks Osiris why his son is having nightmares, and she reveals that Baldur will be killed. This is the Poetic Edda version of a Draugr, even though the word Draugr is never actually used. Magic is required to bring back the dead to impart some sort of wisdom and or prophecy. This changes drastically when reading through the sagas. There are 2 Draugrs found in the Grettis saga, also known as the Grettir the Strong. In chapter 18, Grettir and his newly acquainted friend, Audun, rob the grave of Kar the Old, who is said to have been buried with all his riches. Audun is against the idea, but follows Grettir nonetheless. Grettir leaves Audun to guard the rope used to get into the barrow, while Grettir advances forward. Quoting from the saga, quote, "Then Grettir entered into the barrow, and right dark it was, and a smell there was therein none of the sweetest. Now he groped about to see how things were below. First he found horse bones, and then he stumbled against the arm of a high chair, and in that chair found a man sitting. Great treasures of gold and silver were heaped together there, and a small chest was set under the feet of him full of silver. All these riches Grettir carried together to the rope, but as he went out through the barrow, he was gripped at right strongly. Thereon he let go the treasure and rushed against the barrow dweller, and now they set on one another unsparingly enough." End quote. The Draugr and Grettir wrestle one another, trying to get the upper hand. When Grettir realizes that he can't win by strength alone, he flips Kar onto his back, grabs his sword, and cuts off his head. Grettir then places the head at the thighs of Kar, which was believed as a way to truly kill the Draugr. Kar the Old would be a Hawi, or barrow dweller, as he doesn't leave his burial mound. We also learn that Draugrs are incredibly strong, able to match Grettir in a wrestling match. The next Draugr, however, doesn't like to wait around. In chapters 33 to 35, a strong man named Glamour was hired at a certain man's farm to watch sheep. One day, Glamour didn't return home and his body was found buried beneath the snow. Quote, "Now they looked closely and saw where Glamour lay a little way therefrom. He was dead, and as blue as hell, and as great as a neat." Here we get a description that will be repeated from time to time. Draugrs can look as though they did when they were alive. They can look like their time of death, with all injuries included, or they can look a hell-colored blue, black, and or deathly pale, with bodies that seem to have grown in size, as Glamour did. Things get even more interesting, as Glamour was not a happy camper. Quoting again from the saga, "A little time after men were ware that Glamour lay not quiet. Folk got great hurt therefrom, so that many fell into swoons when they saw him, but others lost their wits thereby. But just after Yule, men thought they saw him home at the farm. Folk became exceeding afeared thereat, and many fled there and then. Next, Glamour took to riding the house roofs at night, so that he went nigh to breaking them in. Now he walked well nigh night and day. Hardly durst men fare up into the dale, though they had errands enough there, and much scathed the men of the countryside deemed all this." End quote. Here we get another trait of the Draugr, an aura of madness. Anything, including animals, that came near to Glamour became mad. There is another story of a Draugr that was burned to ashes. A local young bull licked the stones where some of the ashes lay and became a cursed bull, growing in an abnormal size and strength as it got older, with a call that was otherworldly. Back to the story at hand, Glamour would crush anything within reach, human, animal, and houses alike, forcing the locals to all leave their homes. It wasn't until Grettir the Strong came to behead Glamour and lay his head next to Glamour's thigh, just as he had done to Kar the Old, that the hauntings stopped. For good measure, the townsfolk burned the body and carry away his ashes. But before he died, Glamour was able to place a curse on Grettir that makes him afraid of the dark and brings about misfortune. The strong Grettir ends up an outlaw that dies young and alone. But not every story involving the Draugar involve it guarding its burial place or terrorizing the area. In the Laxdæla saga, on chapter 76, a man named Thorkel and his crew drowned at sea. Later, that same day, they were seen by a woman named Gudrun. Quote, "And when she came to the church, then she seemed to see that Thorkel and his folk were come home, and all stood out before the church, and she saw that the sea ran off their raiment." End quote. There are few accounts that I could find that were translated into English of what is referred to as a sea Draugr, those that drowned at sea. This was a common belief, however, especially for a culture that is known for their seafaring. In this particular story, the Draugr all appeared together, but other than to give a greeting to Gudrun, they just stood by silently. In the Eyrbyggja saga, or Saga of the Air Dwellers, there is an instance of a man who practiced a Norse tradition called Uthseta, or house-sitting, in which a person tries to connect or draw inspiration from the inhabitant of the grave. In this case, a man who wished to be a skald sat on the grave of a renowned poet. The Draugr sits next to him and imparts his knowledge to the man. In another story, the body of a woman who died of an illness comes out of her casket and cooks food naked for the coffin bearers. As we can see, corpses became Draugrs for all sorts of different reasons. Bound by a spell, tragic event, leaving something undone, or possessions. People that are greedy and wicked in life are usually the same in death. Legendary heroes or poets are sought out for help. There are many different ways and reasons anyone could become a Draugr. Learning how a creature lives and interacts with an environment will be incredibly helpful in creating a story that will capture the attention of players or readers. And it is with this goal in mind that I incorporate the biology and ecology of the creature studied. Since the Draugr is an undead creature, the biology can pretty much be skipped. Just a few things to mention. They are the height of humans, or possibly larger, like mentioned in the sagas. Notable differences in appearances would be the blue, black, and pale coloration and how they appear, as they were in life, time of death, or in varying states of decay. Unlike the stats in the bestiary, Draugrs are fully aware of the surroundings and remember their past life. They can be sought out for good favor and blessings or wisdom. The mindless, shambling skeleton or zombie was not found in the Nordic literature that I read. Fierce, strong, battle-hardened soldiers that have the ability to control weather, change shape, or inflict curses. All these abilities are found in various sagas and eddas. Alright, there we go. Now let's see how the Draugr interacts with the surroundings and players. According to the Pathfinder wiki, Draugar are found in the Shackles and as far north as the freezing Ivory Sea. Any coastal environment that has a climate like unto Scandinavia and other Nordic territories. The Norse buried everything they wanted to bring with them to the afterlife. That included ships, thrones, precious belongings, animals, and even people. Relatives were revered and buried in places where they could guard and bless villages. All this information sets up scenarios for us that can be very creative in design and purpose in a homebrew session. A Draugr can be an absolute menace, sowing discord everywhere they go, or be helpful and kind. They can be found alone, or in a whole army regiment or ship crew, on land, on the sea, or in burial mounds. The possibilities are endless. With all this in mind, I always like to end each video by brainstorming some plots and campaigns. The classic tomb raiding of Skyrim can be used, having players matched against a Draugr king sitting on his throne. Warriors can be set in ambush for just the right moment. A coastal village can be filled with Draugrs looking as they did in life, until a sudden plot twist reveals their true nature. Perhaps it is a sea battle, where a ghost ship filled with a Draugr crew attacks the players in the middle of the night. Boiling fog conceals the ships, but a faint sound of dipping oars in the water comes closer and closer. Perhaps players are called upon to help defend a city against raiding parties. If historical accuracy is important, I suggest doing a little research on Viking battle tactics, like the shield wall, that can be incorporated as an ability, as well as what weapons and armor, or lack thereof, are used. I hope this video was fun and educational. Be creative and find ways to incorporate the Draugr into your own work. Like and subscribe if you are inclined to do so, and I will see you all in the next one.